I'm a watercolour artist. I'm on the shoreline here at Elgol on the Isle of Skye. It's a bit windy, but I'm going to try and do a painting of the coolings behind me and these wonderful rocks on the foreshore. Well, we've had to retire back into the comfort and safety of our holiday cottage. The reason being that down on the shore there, I managed to get my tonal sketch done, but we could see a squall coming in, and what came with it was a ferocious gale. So we were more or less blown off the shore. And soaked as well as we packed our stuff away. So we've come back in, and I'm going to try and continue the painting, execute the painting on this big scale. I've already transferred the drawing over here, and so with reference to my tonal sketch, I can see that there are three distinct tonal values. There's the sky, there's this midground here, this is a midground here, and then there's this foreground, which is all quite dark in comparison. So three clear tonal areas, 1, 2, 3. So let's just take a look at the composition here. We've got a horizon line which is just below the halfway point. Coming in on this side is that cliff, and bookending it, holding in the composition, is this magnificent big rock. There's another one in the distance here which I really like because it breaks the horizon and gives us something sticking out into the water. So I want to keep some really bright whites here from the surf. There's lots of surf down there, and get some contrasts here, because that's my focal point. I want to express some of the misty blue violet haze over these mountains here, the Coolins, and the sky is very stormy, obviously. So let's give it a go and see what can be done. I want to try to hold on to, even though I'm inside, I want to try and hold on to the feeling of being out there. It was really quite elemental, and so I mustn't lose that just because I'm inside. It's something to see if I can retain and express. So I hope you can see my drawing here. I'll just go over some of the elements. Foreground, so this nice dark line here. I'm going to try and keep a sliver of water there. It's not actually on my reference picture. I might put in a couple of people there for scale, but there's just three terrific pieces of this painting to express here. Sky, distant mountains, rocky foreshore. Let's go. Okay, so I've drawn the composition, happy with that. Now I've got to do the first wash, and first thing I'll do is start with the sky and best not to overplay this. Keep it quite light because I want to get contrast, but it's so I'm just picking up leftovers here, getting a nice murky grey, and I'll do this with quite a dry brush. I want to introduce some element of blue sky in it, but I just take inspiration from what I'm looking at out of the window here. A little bit of cool grey in there. And I want a little bit less. A bit too much, I think. A bit too much water in the brush. More cobalt blue in here. Yeah, a little bit more cobalt blue and warm grey this time. And I think what I'll do is spray, a bit alive, and go in with a touch of cobalt blue. I'm softening some edges here. Don't want these edges to get too hard. Just some softening. A bit more very maybe even a little bit of ochre there. And I do see some lightness here and there, some blue. And it's usually the case that you want to make, as you go into the distance, make some of the clouds just a little bit darker. Sorry, just a little bit smaller. What am I talking about? Okay. Tiny little spray on that. Okay, well, we've probably done more than enough there. I'll was tempted to do slightly too much. Okay, now coming down into this area here, I noticed quite a lot of violet in that. But I also noticed some yellow ochre. Yeah, this is tricky, this one. I'll stay on the warm side on the basis that I can go over in some cool, with something cool, and yep, I think that's about right there. And we get down here. I'll just get some of this in the same. I'll warm it up a little bit. Up there. And then I've got some of the water here, which is a steely grey. So we'll go for that cool. And I did talk about making sure that I left some spray. Here and here. Okay, now I'm into the foreground area. Here. So that's quite warm. And then in here, it actually does get quite warm altogether. So I'm going to pick up some burnt sienna and get some warmth in this foreground area. And as I come forward, I'll mix some ultramarine in there. The burnt sienna. And get some nice darks. Though when this is dried, it won't be that dark. It will be quite a light mid-tone. and it's kind of playtime here. Just keep putting some colour in here, otherwise it will get too... it'll just get too boring. It's preferable to mix your darks than just pick up a neutral tint. Okay, I think probably got what we need there. Yeah, I think that could be it. Bit of warm grey in here, down there, warm grey here. A little puff of spray. Actually, it's quite a good time to do a little bit more than that. I think I'll go in for a bit of splattering actually. Let's see if we can do some splattering. Otherwise, if I don't do something like this, it's a little bit tame. Yeah, this feels better. A bit more here. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit more life to it now. Okay, that's the first wash done. The first wash is dried now and given me sky, midground, foreground. Looking at my tonal sketch and the reference, this is much darker, but I'll come back to that. The important part to get in is the tonal quality of this. It's a lighter tone than you might imagine. And if I hit that too hard, it doesn't look like the distance. So I've got to be careful here. Got to be careful. There's some warmth, and then there's a touch of mauve in that colour element of the tone. So I've got some hill to do here. It's a faraway hill. Yep. And then it comes up here. There's a bit of that. And I'm using a big sable here, number 12. Don't want to get too tight too early. And now I'm going to start to mix in some of the violet. Into this mix here. Some ultramarine blue. So a little taste of that. Not quite dark enough. And it comes up here like this. I may need a little bit of burnt sienna in there. And a little bit more of that ultramarine violet. A bit more of the blue. Not a lot, but enough. Maybe a little bit darker. That means I need to be a little bit thicker, I think. Add a touch of lavender, that always thickens it up. I've just got too much water. I think is what I've got, too much water in my brush. I want to keep these brush strokes as loose as possible. I can tell I've got too much water in my brush because I'm splattering too much. I'm mixing up something slightly thicker here with ultramarine blue, ultramarine violet and lavender to thicken it up with a bit of burnt sienna. And I think we're now getting a little bit closer to what I should have had in the first place. Feather that in there a little bit, and probably a tiny little bit of that. Might go just a tad darker. The base particularly. Oh, this is still wet. Now I have to go in here, and this is paler still, so I'm going to go to a different brush. This number 10 is Skoda Synthetic Sable, and let me see what I've got here. Is this what I need? These are the distant jagged peaks of the Coulons, but I must keep some distance here. I'll just give it a little spray, keep it lively. And here, and there's some real jagged edges there. I don't have to be accurate, really. Just got to get the character. Which is pretty wild. Okay, so then there's a really strong peak here with another one that comes down. And I want a soft edge. Okay. And there's some evidence of sunlight here and there, so I just picked up a little bit of yellow ochre to float in there. I'm being very careful not to get too colourful or too colourful or too dark. I don't want to get too dark, but I think we need just a here and there a little touch of a darker tone. And I'll just see that along there and here. There we are. Okay, so now it's all about this foreground area. If I'm happy with that, I shall start on the right hand side here and try and get the tone of this cliff to sit in place. Now it's quite a bit darker. It's the drama, isn't it? It's the drama of the composition. So I'll pick up some, I've got some leftovers there with some ochre, adding some lavender to neutralise the warmth, and I'll put in some burnt sienna. This is very neutral, really, and it's not what I'm looking at right now, which is catching sunlight. When I was out there earlier, it was very much the darkest tone. So we'll see if we can get some of that in. And it's time to get a little bit freer with the brush strokes. So back to mixing, haven't mixed up enough. That's yellow ochre, burnt sienna, some lavender, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. Gets us to that. Need a nice confident brush stroke here. And down here. Carry on. I don't think I'm dark enough yet. Let's keep going down. There's a jutting out bit here. And it does go very light here. Now, while it's like that, I'm going to give it a spray and go in at the top with something that's slightly green. So once again, mixing on top of the colour I previously used, I'm going in with cerulean blue, a little bit of cobalt turquoise, yellow ochre, maybe even a touch of cadmium, but I think I need to take it all down a little bit, and I think it needs to be darker. So let's put that in there, and that feels better already. Yep, that does. Up on the top here. And on the edge, on that edge, we have a slightly darker edge. Warm. Let's see what we've got here. So we need some nice crisp edges here. And here. there's some detail to be picked up without too much obsessing over exact marks, but just flagging up the fact that there's something there. And down here we'll go slightly darker with a drier brush. Even darker. Keep going. And I'm still just trying to get in the character of this rather than paint it too accurately. Yeah, there's time later on to come in with some more detail. Here. So this is, we're still in this wet and wet phase. Easy to get bogged down here, which is possibly what I'm doing. I'm not working with particularly thick pigment, and I feel like I should be. But so that usually tells you that you have got into a little bit too much detail too early. But that's easily rectified. Just loosen up a bit. Just have to keep some of these You have to keep the values intact up. There we are. As soon as you do that, you feel better. Back into painting. Yes. A bit darker at the base. Yeah, already feeling better. Just not quite enough contrast. Okay, so I just want to get some of that grassy feel back at the top. So we're going there with some thick paint, which feels better. Is it dark? I'm just going to pick up some red here actually. Alizarin. Yeah, that's better. Thicker paint. And a bit drier too. Right, the character of the cliff is I'm just trying to capture the character of the cliff at the minute with some brushstrokes, because your brushstrokes are very important. They are your signature. So let's see if I can just give a little bit more personality to this bit here. These are strokes with quite a lot of I've got quite a lot of pigment on the brush, but they're going onto wet paper. It's quite soft, so they soften up. And I can come back to it later. This is quite enjoyable to do this. It can slow you up. Yeah, I may come back to that later. Okay, now it's time to do this middle area. And what's important here is this waterline. I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue and put it in here. A little bit of lavender. And the tone here is actually slightly darker than what is behind, so I'll just try it there, and then I'll dilute it as it comes down and see if that gives me the effect I want. Just dilute it here, and I want the feeling that there's surf. Yeah, okay. Surf. And then we've got this rock. And I've got some all-important white here. Probably too much, but gotta be careful, because once the white is gone, it's gone. So just be careful with that. Now my rock. Rock is slightly warm at the top, and then it comes down and gets dark very quickly. So I'll just try and capture that now. Okay, so here's my rock. And it comes down into the water here. I'll leave a little bit of that for the surf. And then there's a dark that joins everything here. It comes across here like this, and rises up towards the cliff. There we are. Gets slightly warmer as it comes towards us, and slightly more, slightly browner. So this is all about judging what to leave here, because it does actually do a bit of this. And here I'm using the paper to give me some of the character of the stones. Here and here. And then we once again will get dark here, but I'm going to come over to this stone here now and see if I can complete that one. It's quite a bit darker than the background. I'll go back to this slightly bigger brush and mix up some ochre. It's got some ochre underneath. There's actually a greenish feel to it. And right at the very top, is an ochre feel. Like that. We've now got something to put our green into. There are some light patches in it, like this, but it's got a nice dark edge. Maybe not as dark as that here. Need thicker paint. Yeah, thicker paint. And then, as we get down here, it goes really dark. So, thicken up my paint here. And here, of course, it is important to loosen up your brush strokes. Try and be as expressive as possible. So, right on the edge it's got some really nice darks. Okay, then we come down here. I'm going to carry on into this next area rather than down to the base of the page. So this is nice, some distant rocks, and then we've got this one here which is pretty dark, dramatic, and it pops up just above the break line of the water. Yes, just like that. Okay, yeah. Now, do a bit of this and across onto this rock where we've got some nice licheny sort of colour. And then into that we'll put some of this. Just picking up some darker stuff. And then we'll get into something much darker. With a bigger brush, that neutral. Now this is a warm grey, and I just want it to be, yeah, like this. Thicker, thicker, thicker. Here we go. Just need a little bit more paint. And where's my paint? A bit more warm grey. What would I do without it? Look at that. It's got a lovely edge to it there. So that is dry brushwork we've got there. And then we actually have some quite dark tone here. Yeah. Dark grey again. We need this contrast. We're going to get the consistency of the paint right here. I need to be able to work this in this fashion, because we don't want to get into all these rocks in laborious detail. We want to feel the nature of the rocks without painting them laboriously, as I said. And so this is one of the most enjoyable aspects of watercolour painting for me, anyway, is this here. And remember, we've got some of this underlying we had some underlying warmth from the very first wash that we did. Maybe just a few bits and pieces of this. It'd be nice if this was done without too much detail, but just suggested. So that's what I'm trying to do here. My sparkles that I left here are probably just too light in tone, so I think I'll just kill them. Yeah, just take them out. A few little bits and pieces. I think there's still a little bit I can do here. I've now switched to a small mop. And I'm still working on this dry technique. dry brush technique. So yeah, I guess we are into our dry brush strokes phase. Yeah, I guess we are. As we get into some more detail here. And I'll just do a little bit of that. Some of the spattering work that happened earlier is welcome now, because it's broken up quite a bit of that. Now, finally, we're in the dry brush stroke phase. I might want to pick out some highlights, or I might want to emphasize some darks. Let's just have a look at some darks first, I think. I seem to be going for the cool grey as my ultimate dark at the moment. I may need something more, so there's neutral tint, which is darker. I'm going to put in a little bit of blue. And do a little bit of this. You can work darks quite a lot harder than at first seems to be the case. So we're into really quite thick paint here. I'm going to pick up some violet as well. Ultramarine violet, just to get some real dark. Here. Still working it here, giving some shape to this boulder before it disappears into just a mass of rocks. Still working on the darks here, neutral tint, burnt sienna in here. Just a little bit there. Joining these darks up across here, I think is probably quite important. Here, dry brush strokes, dark, thick pigment, and okay. May want a really tiny little touch of it here. Yeah. Now, do we need any more of it here? Probably. Just some detail. Still work to be done here. Might be some dry brush strokes there. And I've not forgotten our explorers on the horizon. I'm still thinking about that. Do I need it? Or is there enough interest here? Well, it's still coming together, I feel. A bit of dark here. And some darks there. A bit of dark under here. Not too dark. Okay, right on here there's still some, a little bit of more contrast needed. Okay, we're nearly there. Just to help some of these contrast areas. Okay, I'm just going to take a step back and squint my eyes here. Yeah. Kind of splatter there. Okay, so the question is, do we need any lights? Yes, I think we do. And we may even use white for once. Okay. Tiny bit of this. On that faraway rock. Even some flecks of white. Straight out of the tube. Just to give it a little bit of drama there. Yeah, quite like it. It's maybe a bit of, watch it, George. It's easy to go overboard at this point. So there's some white gone in there, pure white. Yeah? Okay, now, figures. Yeah, I think it does need figures. So where do they go? I think our figures break they have to break this this line here, so I think they're probably in here. Now I saw somebody this morning when I went to take a look at this, and they were wearing a bright orange top, and I thought it looked great. So let's see if I can get one in, and they also lend scale to this. So let's put our chap in there. I'm only saying he's a chap because that's who I saw this morning. It's always good to put the head in first and then, sorry, to put the body in first, what am I talking about? And then get the head in later. Otherwise it's too easy to make a head that's too big for a body. And if I put the stroke in the right way, then it might tell you all about the wind. That was too much for us and is still blowing outside. And I think this person has got a companion. But what is their colour? I mean, I've been watching this scene for a day now, and it is amazing how many people walk around this headland. So I'm going to give his companion the opposite side of the colour spectrum from the orange is this cerulean blue, and they're huddling together because it's windy and they've never been here before, so they're sticking close together. Just tickling that in. There we go. Nothing too much. Hopefully the colours work together there. And I probably think it's probably a final flourish of some seabird. I did see them. Got to decide where they go though. They can't be anywhere. Well, I've got some big splodge here that might need to be covered up. Could it be that? I feel like there's one here. Yeah, that feels pretty good. And so, yeah, we've got one there. I think we've got another one here. And then we'll have a third, won't we? We've got to have a third. So the third bird, where is it? It's a bit more contrast, and the third bird feels like it's just off this cliff here. Yeah, okay. So this is, I think that I'm finished now. I can't think of anything else to do. It's really meaningful. And so this is the shoreline at Elgol, with the Coolins in the background. Stormy day, I can attest to that. Gale blowing and squalls running across every so often. So I'm going to take the tape off and see what this looks like. Well, before I took the tape off, I just had a last look, and I feel like it needs a little bit more integration here. So I just mixed up a warmish mix here of brown madder, as it happens, one of my favourite colours, which I've not used at all. I'm just going to pop this in here, just calm this down a tad. Integrate some of those bits. I think it's working quite well here. Even darker in the corner. And feels quite good to me. It's just a bit of unification. A little bit darker at the base. A little bit of that ultramarine violet might be interesting. I think that's it. So in the field of battle, Mother Nature won the first round, and once I got inside in my own comfort zone, it was great to look out of the window and see the scene, having experience of being there, and try to capture the wild and moody nature of this landscape, which I feel I've done.